What if a monster's warning is worse than its attacks? What if the thing you should fear most isn't the creature in the dark, but what it's trying to show you?
In 1966, a shadow fell over Point Pleasant, West Virginia. A shadow with wings. And for 13 terrifying months, it watched. Then, on a cold December day, the watching stopped, and the tragedy began.
It began on a cold, moonless night, November 15th, 1966. Two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary Millette, were driving aimlessly, seeking a moment of peace on the winding back roads of West Virginia. Their journey led them to the McClintock Wildlife Management Area, a place locals knew by a more sinister name, the TNT Area. A sprawling, derelict landscape of abandoned munitions bunkers and a decaying power plant from World War II. It was a place where secrets were buried deep.
As their 1957 Chevy crested a small hill, their headlights caught something that didn't belong. Two glowing red circles, about 2 inches in diameter and 6 inches apart, hovering in the darkness by the plant's generator building. They weren't lights. They were eyes. The shape that materialized from the gloom was a waking nightmare. Linda Scarberry would later describe it as being shaped like a man, but bigger, maybe 6.5 to 7 feet tall. It was a gray, muscular humanoid figure with a massive 10-foot wingspan, its wings folded against its back. It had no discernible head, only that hulking torso and those hypnotic burning eyes that seemed to paralyze them with fear. It moved with a clumsy, shuffling gait, a bizarre contradiction to its powerful form.
Panic erupted. Roger Scarberry slammed his foot on the accelerator, the car lurching forward, tires spitting gravel. But as they sped away, the creature followed. It rose into the air, as one witness described, like a helicopter. As the Chevy hit 100 miles per hour, the winged figure kept pace effortlessly, gliding silently beside them, never once flapping its enormous wings. All the terrified couples could hear was a high-pitched screeching, like a mouse, that cut through the roar of their engine.
The Scarberries and Millette's story was not an isolated incident. It was merely the spark. The next day, the Point Pleasant Register published the story, and the legend of the Mothman was born. The town was gripped by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity. Armed posses combed the TNT area, but found nothing. Soon, the floodgates opened. Over the next 13 months, more than 100 credible witnesses reported sightings. Gravediggers in a nearby town saw a brown human being soar over their heads. A contractor named Newell Partridge was watching TV when his screen erupted in static and a loud whining sound came from outside. When he aimed his flashlight toward his barn, he saw 2 red eyes, like bicycle reflectors, staring back. His German shepherd, Bandit, gave chase and was never seen again. The encounters grew more personal, more terrifying. Marcella Bennett, visiting friends near the TNT area with her infant child, saw a large gray figure rise slowly from the ground beside her car. In her horror, she
she dropped her baby. She scooped her child up and fled into the house, but the creature followed, shuffling onto the porch and peering through the window with its terrible, glowing eyes.
But it wasn't just the creature. The phenomenon was broader, stranger. The town became a hotbed of high strangeness. Reports of UFOs and mysterious lights in the sky became commonplace. Televisions and radios crackled with unexplained interference. And then came the visitors. Mysterious men in black began appearing at witnesses' doors, including Linda Scarberry's. They were inhuman, intimidating figures who warned people to stop talking about what they had seen. The story was no longer about a simple monster hunt. It was as if a veil had been torn, and Point Pleasant had become a window to some other, terrifying reality.
The sightings, the strange lights, the men in black, it all continued for 13 months. And then it all culminated in a single moment of unimaginable horror. December 15th, 1967. A cold Friday evening, just 10 days before Christmas. Rush hour traffic was heavy on the Silver Bridge, the steel artery connecting Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to Gallipolis, Ohio.
At 4:58 p.m., a sound like a gunshot echoed across the Ohio River.
In less than 20 seconds, the entire bridge buckled and tore itself apart, plunging 31 vehicles and dozens of people into the icy water below. 46 people lost their lives. 2 were never found.
I had the most awful dream last night, John. People, presence, all drowning in the river.
Reporter Mary Heyer, who had chronicled the Mothman sightings, had told investigator John Keel weeks earlier of a terrifying nightmare. People drowning in the river, with Christmas packages floating everywhere in the water.
I've heard stories.
Her premonition had become a horrific reality.
In their grief and confusion, the people of Point Pleasant looked for answers, and they remembered the creature. Witnesses came forward claiming they had seen the Mothman perched on the bridge in the days and moments leading up to the collapse.
December 15th, 1967. December 15th.
The sightings, which had terrorized them for over a year, suddenly stopped. The Mothman was gone. Its watch was over.
So what was the Mothman?
So what was the Mothman? A demon? An alien? Or something far more terrestrial? Skeptics and scientists point to a very plausible culprit. A large bird, misidentified in the darkness and amplified by fear. The most likely candidate is the barred owl. Barred owls are large, can appear headless when perched, and are known for their silent flight. Crucially, their eyes contain a high concentration of blood vessels that produce a dramatic crimson eye shine when caught in headlights, a perfect match for the creature's most terrifying feature. In the panic and low visibility of a dark night, it's conceivable that a frightened witness could mistake a 20-inch owl for a 7-foot monster.
And what of the bridge? The official investigation, which took 3 years to complete, found a purely scientific cause. The collapse was triggered by a single catastrophic failure in a piece of steel called an eye bar. A microscopic stress crack, just 0.1 inches deep, had formed and grown over 40 years, a flaw completely invisible to the inspection technology of the day. The bridge's innovative but non-redundant design meant that once that single piece failed, the entire structure was doomed. It wasn't a curse or a monster. It was a tragic, preventable failure of engineering.
It wasn't a curse. It was a preventable failure.
But for paranormal investigator John Keel, and for many locals, the scientific explanation felt incomplete. It couldn't account for the 13 months of high strangeness, the UFOs, the men in black, and the chillingly accurate premonitions. Keel proposed a different theory. The Mothman wasn't a malevolent force. It was a harbinger of doom. A trans-dimensional being, or ultra-terrestrial, that was drawn to the psychic energy of a future disaster. It wasn't there to cause the collapse. It was there to warn of it. But its alien consciousness was simply unable to communicate its message in a way humans could understand. The terror it inspired was just an unfortunate side effect of its presence.
Today, Point Pleasant has embraced its monster. The town that was once paralyzed by fear now celebrates the Mothman with a statue, a museum, and an annual festival that draws thousands. For some, it's a narrative hijacking, the commodification of a tragedy that claimed 46 lives. For others, it's a way to own their unique, terrifying history. The original sightings in West Virginia ended with the fall of the Silver Bridge, as if the creature's purpose was fulfilled.
But the legend didn't die. It mutated, spreading through books, films, and now the internet. And new sightings have begun to surface. Since 2011, dozens of reports have emerged from Chicago, describing a large winged humanoid with glowing red eyes, eerily similar to the original Mothman.
It leaves us with a deeply unsettling question. Was the Mothman a unique omen, forever tied to a single 1960s tragedy? Or is it still out there, flying silently through our modern world, drawn to the scent of disaster, searching for the next bridge to fall?
Thanks for watching. Like, comment, do share.